Welcome to Breast Intentions, the podcast where we take off the bra of expectations and dive into honest, empowering conversations. We're your hosts, Nadine and Cynthia, two Canadian girls who swapped snow boots for flip-flops in the Cayman Islands. This is your space to feel seen, supported, and a little less alone. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of champagne and get ready for your weekly handful of truth, wellness, and empowerment. Welcome back to Breast Intentions. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of functional mushrooms with the founder of the Happy Human Mushroom Co. Alaina is a nutritionist and passionate wellness advocate who's here to debunk the myths and show us how mushrooms can support women through every stage of life.
So on this episode of Breast Intentions, we have a very familiar face to anyone who's watching in from the Cayman Islands, Alaina, who is the owner of the Happy Human Mushroom Company. And when it comes to breast intentions, we're always wanting to look at things from exploring a deeper connection between our choices and the health that we can create for ourselves. So we're very thankful that you can come on here and talk a little bit more about your mushroom supplement company. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
We're looking forward to learning more. So why don't you let us know, and also our audience, a little bit more about how you got started?
Yeah, absolutely. So the business actually came about when I was pregnant with my daughter in 2022. And pregnancy is such a whirlwind. It's this beautiful, awe-inspiring experience, but it's also like a full-on hormonal roller coaster. So I dealt with intense nausea, exhaustion, brain fog, and these emotional highs and lows. And in those tough moments is when, I felt the sickest I'd ever felt. I started worrying what postpartum might look like and if I would struggle with postpartum depression. And I knew that I was going to need some extra support as I, was entering in this new chapter of mine. And I just kept coming back to functional mushrooms. And I first actually started using functional mushrooms about 10 years ago, but I kind of felt like I knew more surface level information. But when I started deeply researching, what is a high quality functional mushroom supplement? What does that look like? I discovered this shocking research that I discovered that only 75% of functional mushroom products on the market today contain very little to no mushrooms in their supplements. So a bottle can say mushrooms, but that doesn't actually mean that it's containing mushrooms, which is wild,
crazy.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I genuinely I felt betrayed, and now I'm pregnant and feeling betrayed. So now I've got this goal in my mind, and so I learned that there's actually this divide in the functional mushroom space. So few companies use 100% fruiting bodies. So that is the mushroom itself. When you think of a mushroom, that is a fruiting body. So while majority of a lot of other companies, they're using the fruiting body, so the mushroom, also the root system that's entangled in the substrate, so the food that it's grown on. And what they'll do is they'll grind it all up together, and now you have a mostly grain supplement, which has very low amounts of the actual mushroom itself, as you can imagine, right?
This is filler, is what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So somebody once said it's kind of like an apple pie. So if you're getting this apple pie, you're expecting an apple pie. But then say you get something that's myceliated grain, it's like you're getting the dirt, the branches, the leaves. You're getting everything kind of into it in that apple pie that you weren't really expecting. So what this is, it creates a high profit margin for companies. And
right.
Over the years, you just feel like, I spent so much money. I trusted all these products. And now as a soon-to-be mom, it didn't sit right with me. So I dove into podcasts. I reached out to my mycologist, and I ended up connecting with a certified organic local farm, which is in Fort Lupton, Colorado, which is 30 minutes away from me. And originally I was just outsourcing mushrooms for myself. And around that same time, I was winding down my holistic nutrition business, which was called the Happy Human Method, which I had for a few years. Absolutely loved it. But I felt like, being pregnant and going into this new chapter, I just wasn't going to be able to give that same energy that clients deserved. With me, one, I have a corporate job, and then also becoming a new mom. So that's like when this light bulb went off that these functional mushrooms can continue to help those people in the happy human community. And funny enough, with encouragement from a podcast, actually, Happy Human Mushroom Co. was born.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Functional mushrooms like lion's mane, turkey tail, and reishi. Those are the three that I've only really ever heard of. I'm sure that there's many more and they all have like many different benefits. But how did you discover really like their potential and the changes that they actually helped like make for you?
Yeah. So like my OG mushroom is actually cordyceps. So cordyceps militaris. So I started taking that about 10 years ago, and I started using that to support athletic performance, energy, and stamina. And the reason being is because I've always been super sensitive to caffeine. I would take a pre-workout. Some of those pre-workouts, they've got like 250 milligrams of caffeine. It's just,
Right.
It's such a high amount. So, but they would make me feel dizzy, my skin would crawl, and like more than once I would actually have to get up and leave the gym because like the room would just be spinning. So I was on the hunt for a natural pre-workout. And that's when I came across this story about the 1993 Chinese women's track team. And they broke 5 world records at the Olympics and were actually accused of using steroids. But it turns out that they were supplementing with cordyceps mushrooms. And it was actually like a cordyceps elixir. So they had like a couple different herbs in there, but cordyceps was the base of it. And the coach was having them use that during their training. And so that story, like right there, like I knew I was going to start using cordyceps, and that became like a staple for me. And like cordyceps, it's quite incredible. So like to kind of give a better understanding of it. So how when you sit in a sauna and it gets your heart rate up and it mimics like the effect of a light workout. So cordyceps like does the same thing. It's similar, but for your lungs. So essentially, it preps your respiratory system the way a mild to intense workout would. So without you even realizing it. So you don't feel the strain, you're not breaking a sweat, but your lungs are already activating and adapting, which is why it is like such, a great substitute for a pre-workout or energy support, which is like pretty incredible. Yeah.
Very.
So it's so amazing. But like overall, I would say like some of like the biggest changes, I saw right away with starting to use functional mushrooms was, deeper sleep, a stronger immune system, and a boost of energy. And when I say right away, we're in this world where it's like we need like instant like gratification, like it needs to happen right now or else it doesn't work. Mushrooms, they need consistency. They need to build. So reishi and cordyceps for me, like they tend to work actually pretty quickly within a few days. And turkey tail and lion's mane are like a little bit more passive. But it was really just like kind of trial and error and leaning into the research, leaning into stories and hearing how well that they work for other people.
So Cole's Notes version, cordyceps, lion's mane, turkey tail, and reishi. Yeah. What do all of them do?
Yeah. So they're pretty amazing. So they're actually like all adaptogenic. So adaptogenic meaning that they're not specific to one thing. They need to be able to support the body as a whole, but individually, right? So they're kind of known for various like more specific things that they do. So reishi, for example, reishi is calming. It helps support your nervous system and calms you down. So it can help you have a deeper REM sleep, which is amazing. People can notice that they'll start falling asleep faster, have that deeper sleep, have more vivid dreams, and wake up feeling quite refreshed. Cordyceps is known as like the athlete's mushroom or like your energizing mushroom. So that's again where it helps increase that VO2 max, that natural energy. Your lion's mane, that's for cognitive function. So there's some really incredible research going on right now. It's one of like the few compounds that can actually cross the blood-brain barrier. So it has like direct influence on the brain. It helps regrow nerve cells, it's just incredible. So that helps with clarity, concentration, memory, and turkey tail. Turkey tail is like the strongest of immune supporters out of the functional mushrooms. Functional mushrooms across the board, they all support immunity, but turkey tail is like the strongest when it comes to that. So it's like a prebiotic, supports immune support, gut support.
Okay. So the reishi one should be taken at night and the rest of them should be taken more in the day.
And I always recommend taking reishi at night because you can notice the benefits in your sleep. Like that's one of like the ways you can see it, you can feel it. I've had people take it where they take it in the day and it's more like they know that it's calming them down. They might not notice it in the day more so, but they know what it's doing for them. But I recommend taking it at night for the sleep benefits.
There has been a lot of stuff being posted recently about the change that it can make in your HRV. It can raise your HRV at night, which is very good. Obviously, you want a higher HRV. So, okay, that's very good to know. And another thing that you pride yourself on, and I've seen it in a lot of your posts, is you're all about transparency, especially when it comes to product quality. So how does a person ensure that products are what they say that they are? I know that you talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but maybe just a bit more in detail.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, when it comes to the mushroom space, currently there isn't a labeling like regulatory body that's going to tell brands that they need to be more specific, like for the consumer to actually understand what they're actually purchasing. And so a lot of these big companies, they have great marketing, they put millions of dollars into their advertisement. And like at these times, it can be extremely like misleading for consumers, right? So for example, that myceliated grain I was telling you about, like that, like the substrate where the roots grow into it. People, you don't have to necessarily put that on your label, but nobody would actually know if it just says, mushrooms. People are going to believe that there's mushrooms.
Yeah.
To where they are considering, they're like, well, they're not, like there isn't a definition to them, like what is a mushroom? Where they're saying, well, the roots are the mushroom, the grain is also the mushroom. Where we know that it's not. So it would be very different if, say, there was regulation to say you need to put on your product that it's myceliated grain, like put it on the front so people don't have to go searching for it. And then that way, if consumers want that absolutely they're able to purchase that, but they're purchasing it because they're wanting to purchase it, right? I feel like there's a big difference. So I feel like, that would make consumers be honest. And because, consumers are putting their trust into companies. Exactly. And they're looking for mushrooms to support them in their health journey. Many people are struggling with, chronic health conditions, and then they're kind of left with paying top dollar for a low quality supplement. And in the end, feeling like mushrooms, they just didn't do anything for me. They don't work. And that's not fair. I feel like that's a disservice for what mushrooms can provide. So there's a small handful of some really amazing brands that have like paved the way to set this example of what it means to have best practices and to be transparent. And we want to make purchasing functional mushrooms like easy and trustworthy. So at Happy Human Mushroom Co., we make sure to have like all that proper information on our labels. And we have certifications on the website to go view if people would like to. We only use the fruiting body. So again, that visual mushroom that you see. And that's currently, as of what we know, is where like the highest concentration of beneficial compounds are found. And that's what delivers results. So we make sure that every serving contains 1,000 milligrams of mushroom extract, which is truly like a therapeutic dose. And on the market, you'll find supplements anywhere that they can have 4 milligrams, 25 milligrams, 50, 100. But now imagine if you actually need to take 1,000 milligrams of an extract regularly to start seeing a difference. If you're, taking a 4 milligram or a 25 milligram gummy on a daily basis, this is where people start to think that, oh, functional mushrooms, they don't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so with that, the next step of that is that extraction method. So extraction is extremely important. We have that right on our label. So it'll say reishi extract, cordyceps extract. So for a fact you are getting that extract. And mushrooms, they need to go through like 2 phases of extraction, a hot water and an alcohol. So I'm very thankful for the farm that I am working with. They have actually introduced something called ultrasonic assisted. It's an ultrasonic assisted double extraction method. And this step helps prep the mushrooms for like a more complete extraction. So it's an ultrasonic vibration in cold water, which uses sound waves to like break open a tough cell wall of that mushroom, which is called chitin. So we cannot digest that. Like we can't break that down. The cell wall's so tough that you need to have that extraction method. Some companies, for example, they'll even take, say, a reishi mushroom, which is very hard. It's very, very hard. It's nothing you can like bite into. What people do is they'll just grind it up into a powder and put it into a product. But again, that chitin hasn't been broken down. So really, most you're going to get is more than likely a stomach ache from that product, rather than any of these, beneficial properties that reishi can provide you.
Right.
Again, that hot water extract, which pulls out immune supporting beta glucans, and then the alcohol extraction, which isolates fat soluble compounds like triterpenes, which help with stress and inflammation. So imagine then, right, if you don't do that extraction. And lastly, our products are third party tested and grown, again, like I said, on that certified organic farm, which is really important because mushrooms are a byproduct of their environment. And even though it's very expensive, like it is a very necessary step. So we make sure to share all of this information so people don't feel like they're looking at something and they have to go digging. I feel like if you have to go dig for these answers, that might not be, the product that you may want to use.
Right. So when it comes to supporting women in midlife, women that are going through menopause, all of the different symptoms, what mushrooms do you recommend? And what is it that maybe they can learn from all of the different types of mushrooms?
Yeah, especially, during a transition like menopause or navigating chronic health challenges, like hormones are shifting. Many women are dealing with chronic fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, or sleep issues. And functional mushrooms can offer such a gentle but meaningful support. So reishi, I would absolutely include reishi.
To help with sleep.
Yeah, to help with sleep. Mm-hmm. So it's called the queen of mushrooms, or the mushroom of immortality. So again, it's an adaptogen, which means that it helps your body adapt to stress and find balance. And many women that I speak to, they say it helps with their sleep. It helps with emotional regulation and overall calmness. Another one I would introduce would be lion's mane. So again, another standout, it supports that cognitive function, which is so key, especially during menopause, when women experience like forgetfulness or mental fog. So it helps you feel sharper and more focused without stimulants or constant, we start really reaching for all that caffeine or those kind of stimulants. So that's super beneficial.
Okay.
And then I would also say cordyceps. So again, my go-to for energy support, but that can be a really huge game changer for women that's navigating chronic fatigue or the ups and downs of hormonal shifts.
Right. Now, I guess maybe for anyone that's listening that is going down that route and maybe using HRT as a support, is there any interaction with taking mushrooms?
So I always recommend check in with your physician, because as much I would say, they are super safe to take. Everybody's different. You kind of never know how you will interact with them. So it's always good to see, doing blood work and getting them checked up on, especially if you are on HRT or you're on something like that. It's just important to see how they're either going to support you Or potentially they might not work for your body for that, depending on as well other medications that people may be on.
Okay. Any medications that you know off the bat?
Blood thinners.
Okay.
Blood thinners, there's some, and I have to be cautious because, I want to make sure, none of this is medical advice. And again, always make sure, check in with a physician. But things like blood thinners, mushrooms are naturally blood thinning. So
Okay.
people that are on medications have found their way to be able to, slowly kind of get off of those and replace. But at the same time, if you're adding both of them together, say you're going in for a surgery, that's definitely not a time to be adding in functional mushrooms. Diabetes, like any kind of like diabetic medication that can, they can alter it. So I always recommend any kind of medication, just double check. That way somebody can make sure that it's not interacting.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any stories of anyone who, like successful stories that have used your mushrooms and shared it with you?
Yeah. There's this one, and I, it makes me so happy, like when I do receive back this feedback, right? Because sometimes
Yes.
you're not too sure, and sometimes it takes some time.
As a small business owner, I get it.
Yeah, and
It's
like,
nice to hear from people. Yes.
yeah, and like you're going to have your things along the way of things you got to fix and stuff like that. But then,
Yeah.
like to hear people's success stories, it's truly amazing. And so, one that I'm able to share, there's quite a few on the website, but let me actually pull it up so I can, use her words exactly. So she said, I've been using Reishi supplement for the past 3 months and have noticed a major improvement in my sleep quality. I've tried all CBD oil, melatonin, ZQuil, and nothing has worked as well as this product. Since using the Reishi from Happy Human, I fell asleep easier. And when I wake up in the early morning, I fall back asleep quickly instead of lying there half awake for hours. I started with one dropper, but have found that 2 to 3 droppers work even better on the days when I really need a full night's sleep. And, reading that, like one, like it's so amazing. I'm so excited for this person. And so thank you, Chelsea, for that wonderful review. I'm so happy for you. And that kind of shift, for someone, for me, for years of disruptive sleep to finally experiencing rest again, like that's massive. And, especially then for women that start navigating hormonal shifts of midlife, I think right there, like that's a testament in itself. So where sleep can become like a very serious challenge. And this one goes also to show the importance of providing proper dosage and making sure that a supplement that you're taking is at least 1,000 milligrams of mushroom extract,
That's
right?
what
So
everyone should be going for.
yeah, like I would, if you were supplementing and you were using that for a reason, and you're not just like, oh, there's this amazing chocolate, I want to have some of it. But if you're like, I'm needing to take this as a supplement, aim for that 1,000 milligrams, because then you can stack, you can add more and take it up higher if you need to, right? So she would have had to take, 3 bags of mushroom gummies to support for like one dosage, right? So that right there, I think, yeah. So that, the story shows like it's how important it is for the effectiveness. You're right, the
Right.
dosage for the effectiveness,
Right.
and also the consistency and her like tuning into what her body needs and realizing like, hey, I need to up this dose into a bit of a higher dose and see where that can take me.
So for anyone that is interested in taking it and they're quickly looking at like the box or the back of the bottle, what are, let's just say, the top 3 things that they should be looking for to know that it's actually a good quality
Great
product?
question. So on the back, this is where no, I think majority of the really good companies that I've seen will say extract.
Okay.
Make
That's the first
sure
thing.
it says, first thing, it should say, like when you flip it on the back of the label, it should say reishi extract,
Okay.
lion's mane extract. If it just says the mushroom and that's it just says reishi, comma, lion's mane, comma, something, to me that raises a little bit of a red flag.
Okay.
And the reason being now is because if it's an extract, they're going to want to tell you, like they want you to know it's an extract.
Right.
If not this right now, you can now be potentially having, again, like a mushroom that's ground up into a powder and thrown in there, but they're not, right? They might not say that. So extract, look for at least 1,000 milligrams of the extract.
Okay.
Where some companies get cheeky, they'll say, 1,000 milligrams, and it'll say 25 milligrams of extract.
Oh, like in
So
brackets or something.
yeah,
Okay.
it'll push it aside.
Okay.
So 1,000 milligrams of even if it said 500, because then you can stack it up to 1,000 for people
Right.
that might be sensitive to it.
Okay.
And that myceliated grain. Uh, Personally, I would avoid the myceliated grain. I would look for something that says fruiting bodies, 100% fruiting bodies. There's, the other side to it is that for the people that might want that myceliated grain, the argument for the side of it is saying, well, it's fermented now. It's a probiotic. So grinding that up, it's creating that. But at the same time, you've kind of just added this big block of tempeh into your supplement. So rather, separate your product and go for the probiotic and then leave the mushroom.
Okay.
So 1,000 milligrams of extract, making sure it actually says extract and fruiting body.
Okay. Now, putting it in water, like cold stuff, hot stuff, can you drop it straight into your mouth?
Yeah. So
Okay.
especially because it's already gone through a hot water extraction,
Okay.
temperature won't affect it, which is
Okay.
great.
Okay.
You'll have different companies, and depending on, right? Some companies put it in powder form, some
Yes.
in capsules, extracts. So a lot of extracts are alcohol based. We went in a different route. There's only a handful of companies that are doing glycerin based because this allows you just to drop it straight in your mouth if you
Okay.
wanted to.
Okay.
Makes it just easier to take and drop it in your coffee, and it won't change the flavor profile.
It's fine. Okay. I've seen that a lot on your social media, and I was just curious
Yeah.
because I know that you see some conflicting information with collagen and it being dropped into like hot coffee or that kind of thing. So I was curious about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So if you could pick one mushroom that you could take for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Only one. Ooh.
That's only one. I know. That's so challenging. I'm like, I need them all. I need them all though. I would have to say lion's mane because, as that saying goes, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that really couldn't be more true when it comes to our brains. So lion's mane, it is that nourishment for your nervous system. And like as I mentioned a little bit ago, it can cross that blood-brain barrier. Not many things can do that. So it's been able to support memory, clarity, focus. So I think that would be the one that would kind of help, take me to the end for as lucid as possible.
And you can take them every day for the rest of your life and you don't have to stop or cycle through or anything like that?
Yeah, great question. So there isn't anything that's telling us right now that shows cycle off, stay off of it for a month, go back on it, or only take X amount of time. There was some research done on reishi powder. Again, sometimes not knowing if that's actually been extracted
Oh,
or
is
if
it more
that's
on
been
the gut?
ground, yeah, in the liver.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, for me, it's one of those things. I tried it. I've tried cycling off myself just for, my own personal experience. And I've noticed a big shift. So I do take them almost every day or more, in the sense of like, what am I really needing
Okay,
today?
that was gonna be
Like, am I
that
needing
was gonna
all
be my
four?
question. Like, is it something that you recommend just taking these every single day or taking as you feel you need them?
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of a mixture of both, to be honest. So I think that if you're someone that is new to functional mushrooms and you're like, where do I start? Like, I've never tried them before. I always recommend people to take reishi first. It's an easy one to add in. It's not like intimidating in the sense where you're like, okay, this is going to help me sleep. Like I can start there. I feel like we all have stress. We can start with an adaptogen and help our nervous system. But take it consistently for at least 2 months. Give yourself the time to see how you respond to it. And then after that, I would say if you're like, okay, my stress has dissipated a little bit. I already feel a little bit more clear from that. Like now what's next? If there's something else I want to add in, well, you know what? I'm trying to increase my energy for my workouts. I'm going to add in cordyceps. So now you have a great one to start your day and you have one to end your day. So you can stack them. You take a full one in the morning, a full one at night. And maybe for a while, then you're like, you know what? My sleep's doing really great. I don't really maybe need this every single night right now. But, I'm wanting to concentrate more at work or something. I'm needing to multitask a little bit more. So for me, other than because I have them in the past, I would just have them in my medicine cabinet, like which one am I needing to lean towards a little bit more? Like, what am I needing? And so I think that I personally feel like that's a great direction to go in. It's just, you start to become a little bit more in tune with what your body's actually needing.
Sometimes
and use the mushroom for that.
Sometimes I find as well where people don't realize how much of an impact, because it's like you were saying as well, it's not one of these things where all of a sudden you're going to take it once and it's going to be like life-changing kind of thing, right? It's usually gradual. But sometimes people don't realize how much it's actually helping until they've done the 2 months straight and then they go off of it and then they go back on it and then they realize how much of an impact it actually was making on themselves. So either you go off and you see what impact it makes, or sometimes you might not realize until you start back on it again.
Yeah, absolutely. And like one that's a little bit more passive, I feel for me, is turkey tail.
Okay.
Like I take it regularly because I'm like, I know, I've got a toddler. I need a strong immune system. She's going to be bringing home germs all the time. I also work in a hospital. So there are things where I'm like, I regularly take that, even though I might not notice it very much. And then there's a time, like I had this conversation with somebody else and it's like, well, yeah, I took it for like a whole year. And some people are like, oh, I didn't see anything from it. And they're like, yeah, but how often did you get sick last year? Or if you did get sick, like how quickly did you bounce back from it? And that's one of the biggest things that I notice is I might get sick, but my goodness, I'll get over it in a day. While people around me will be struggling for a couple weeks.
Okay.
That would be a harder one too, system. I feel.
Absolutely.
To just take it when you think you need it. Like, I think I'm going to need an immune boost this week. Like, how do you know that? You can't really plan that ahead. So that might be one to just kind of have in the rotation a lot.
And for here, because we're going through the seasons, right? So we have like that, like a flu season, right? So like the big shift in seasons is generally like when your immune system takes a hit. So I will like religiously take turkey tail the moment the weather shifts, like fall, and then like all the way through the winter. And then even spring, it like here in Colorado, like we'll still have snowstorms that come in spring, right? So if I know something's coming, again, mushrooms, they have like immune support across the board. So if you're taking your other mushrooms, you're still having that immune support. But if you're like, oh my gosh, it's flu season, like I'm going to double up on this and support myself. Or if you're going to go traveling, in a month you're going to be getting on an airplane, start taking your turkey tail to support your immune system for that travel.
Do you have a mushroom related myth that you would like to bust?
Yeah, you know what? I kind of have like this, it's like a humorous one. So have you guys seen that TV show, The Last of Us?
I don't know
that one. And it's like a zombie. It's this zombie TV series. It's quite popular. There's actually a new season coming out. But the zombies, they're actually taken over by a fungus. And that fungus is actually cordyceps mushroom.
No way.
So it is. It is.
Too funny.
And so people that have seen it, they're going to like, some people, they're obviously joking, but at the same time, I can feel like, the hesitation still, like, well, that's why they're asking, because they're still kind of concerned. But they're like, well, but like, is it actually going to do anything to me? Is it like going to take over my brain? Does it come from insects? So the storyline is loosely based on real science. So cordyceps is known as the zombie mushroom because in nature, there's over 400 species. So some of them are parasitic to insects. So they actually infect the bug. They take over its body and eventually control its movements, which is totally wild. And it's super amazing at the same time. Um, but people still will be like, okay, like but I know, but is it going to affect me?
Mm-hmm.
And in this new season, Four Sigmatic, which is a great mushroom company,
Right. Yeah.
they're actually like they're I think they're sponsoring it or there's some kind of connection with it, and it just
Ah,
popped up. It just popped up actually this
smart.
morning where they
Mm-hmm.
have to put something on it to say yes, mushrooms take over insects' minds, but not humans.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is something I actually have to tell people. I'm like, the cordyceps that we use, it doesn't come from insects. It is cultivated and lab grown, so no insects involved.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's not going to
Right.
take over your brain. And who
Do
knows? In that same thing, like here I am on a podcast talking about how amazing mushrooms are.
right.
So maybe they have taken over and they're telling me what to do.
Would you also say a big conversation, and maybe it's not anymore because it's mushrooms are well known, but like mushrooms from our day were like people getting high,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, and I always thought that it was probably still like a myth that you had to bust about what it's going to actually do.
That's a great point that you make. If I'm at markets,
Mm-hmm.
25, 30% of people will like look at me and they're like, you're handing out mushrooms at a market? Like, I can't take that. I can't start tripping out at a Sunday market. I'm like, no, like I promise. And they're like, they still won't believe me. So
Yeah.
that actually does happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could
I
see
can
that
see that.
too.
That does happen.
What's the most surprising thing you've discovered about their health benefits?
I think more in the sense of how much we still have to explore about their health benefits. So there are 2 million species of fungi, and we have named 150,000 of those. 6,000 of those are actual, like visible fruiting bodies, like the ones that you can see. And then out of that, there's only 15 that are functional that like we know of and that use. Right. And there's probably, as we've talked about, 4, 5, 6 like super popular ones.
Okay.
So I think it's even more what we know now is really amazing, but like what we're going to continue learning, I'm really excited for more science, for us to connect more with lion's mane and Alzheimer's and see like where that can take that, right? Um, in Japan, and again, I'm pleased that for anybody that's listening, this is not medical advice, but rather, sharing the data on it. In Japan, they've been using turkey tail extract to be combined with cancer treatments for the past 32 years. Like, that's incredible to me. And, you walk into, I can't remember where it was. Um, I also want to say it was in Japan, but when you're going into the hospital and you're sick, they automatically give you turkey tail as you're walking in.
Like in a
So,
tea or
I don't know what kind of form they're giving it to. Probably more than likely in a tea, like as you're entering in a hospital. But I think that is so amazing, and we are just touching the surface of it. So I'm really excited for more benefits that we're going to be educated to, and just with the more studying and research that we're able to provide.
that's awesome.
Is this sort of where you see the future of this industry heading, where it is becoming more mainstream, where we are hearing more and more about it and people are using it more and more? Or is there something else that you kind of see the future for this industry?
It's going to keep growing, and I'm so excited about it. And a lot of people they're just hearing it for the first time. Maybe they're going to try a mushroom coffee. Maybe that's going to be their introduction to it. And I think it's being open and kind of, Nadine, like you were saying, there's kind of was like taboo around it. I feel like
Oh
it's,
yeah.
like reducing that taboo and realizing that there's more to mushrooms than people just thinking, people are just out there getting high. Yeah, maybe they are, but there's a massive benefit to that as well. And like not to like, I don't know. So it's one of those things. I think it's being very open to it and watching it grow. And we're going to see it move past, it's not just in wellness, like it's also in skincare. It's in fashion, like myceliated like leather, which is really amazing. It helps clean up, mycelium help clean up oil spills and regenerate soil. So it's just going to continue to grow. And I think the more people see it, it's going to become so normal already as it should. But I think it's just going to just keep going up and it's going to be super positive.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a growing trend of people turning to functional mushrooms as part of their wellness routines. How do you see this trend impacting the way we think about self-care, especially, I guess, during midlife?
Yeah, so I think this shift towards functional mushrooms, it really is going to reshape how we define self-care. I think traditionally self-care has always been, packaged as spa days or like bubble baths, which are great. But I mean, I'm not able to do a spa day every day, and that's what I feel like sometimes I need, right? So adding in those functional mushrooms, able to offer like a more rooted functional approach to wellness. It'll help with real life, changes when we're facing during these stages, from sleep disruptions, brain fog, again, hormonal imbalances. So I think it's really exciting to see that more women are realizing that self-care can be both nourishing and powerful. And it's not just about pampering. It's about creating that internal balance. And this fungi era is empowering women to be more proactive, to tune into their bodies and to
Right.
explore these natural tools that support them through the shifts of midlife. And again, it's so important to remember that, true self-care isn't just surface level. It's those daily rituals and like adding in functional mushrooms to their
Yeah.
routine.
And daily, like you said, it's not just, oh, I can do a spa day once every 6 months. That's self-care. It's not. So yeah, it's things that we can
Yeah,
incorporate every
it's
day and feel different every day.
absolutely. Yeah.
If you could make a dream mushroom blend to support women in midlife, what ingredients would you include and what would they help with?
I love this question. So I would create some kind of, blend or some stack that would, help feel balanced, clear, resilient, through the hormonal and emotional shifts. Reishi, that's obviously what's going to be a biggie for me, that calm nervous system, to support the sleep. Lion's mane for the clarity. Cordyceps for your energy. Chaga, which is a really amazing. It's actually not a mushroom. It's a conch. It's like actually it's a mixture of wood and fungi. Um, so that is huge for immunity support, reduce inflammation, packed with antioxidants, which is great for aging skin and cellular health. And tremella, which is another really amazing mushroom. It's like called like a snow mushroom. It's like this white, beautiful mushroom. Great for skin hydration, beauty from the inside out. So that helps support collagen and retain moisture in the skin. So I would choose those.
Oh,
What I
yeah.
say, 4 or 5.
Four, I think.
Would you make it into a gummy or an extract or a tea?
Yeah,
Or like, what do you think is the best way for a person to take mushrooms?
yeah,
I know
such a
that you
great
do the
question.
tinctures and you do the extracts, but
But
curious.
sometimes, for people, they might not like an extract might not work for them. So I don't think that people like my product. It's more to help people. Like here, start here, and then start trying a bunch of other things and see what works for you. Maybe gummies work better for people. Chocolates, capsules. I take enough capsules, so I'm like the last thing I
Yeah.
want to do is
Right.
take another capsule. An
Yeah.
extract is just so easy. Um, you know, Blends can be really difficult, again, because, if there's sometimes four is okay. You might get, 200 milligrams of each mushroom in that, which is okay.
Oh, I see.
But now, yeah, if you're stacking, sometimes there's 8, 10, 12 mushrooms. Well, it's just put that dose down so low, and it'll be great for just an immunity support across the board. But if you're looking, you're like, oh, I'm going to get the benefits from lion's mane and cordyceps. It's like, no, unfortunately, you're not. You won't get those benefits. So, I would recommend stacking them. So I would take maybe, the cordyceps and that lion's mane in the morning, maybe the chaga, tremella, and which one I mentioned again? I don't know if I said cordyceps, I think I went through them all, those ones, and then I would put them at night. So that way you have some in the morning, you have some at night, and you're taking the actual full dose of each one of those. So you can get the full benefits.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads into my next question. As a busy mom and an entrepreneur, how do you balance wellness and self-care? And do you have any tips on incorporating mushrooms into your hectic schedule? So I think the stacking them and taking them in the morning and in the evening would be a good tip.
Like dropping them in your coffee, because you're kind of killing two birds with one stone there.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. So I always recommend people, like, don't try and recreate this whole new habit, because that's going to be really challenging. Like, what do you already do? Do you have your morning coffee? Do you have an evening tea? You're like, I just crush a bunch of water in the morning. Great. Throw your extract in there if you don't want to drop it in your mouth. But, for me, when it comes to creating that time for my own wellness, like, I've learned I have to schedule it in. If not, I will just work, unfortunately, from the moment I wake up. I get home, pick up my little one, finish up with her, and then continue to work. And then, my day is always towards something else. So I've learned I have to schedule it. I get excited for it because it's in my calendar. And when it comes to, like, the supplements, I'll put them. So I had a customer that told me I kept forgetting to take my reishi, so I put it by my toothbrush. I thought that was great. So I tell that to people all the time now. I'm like, put it by your toothbrush. You're going to remember. Put your cordyceps in your gym bag, so you know that you'll take it there. Your lion's mane, if you have that with your coffee, put it by your coffee machine in the morning. So don't tuck it away. I know I said, I keep this in my cabinet. I probably keep my turkey tail tucked away, but everything else, like, out of sight, out of mind. So keep it visible, and then you're going to remember to take it. Don't tuck it away and hope that you're going to remember, because more than likely you won't.
Yeah.
And that goes for everything too, right?
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
supplements.
Okay, we're going to move on to a segment we have called Hot Flash or Hot Take. So we're going to ask you about something, and you tell us whether it's a hot flash, which is not great, we don't want them, or a hot take. Okay? All right.
I love it.
So the first one is mushroom coffee. And I think this is probably the first place I ever heard of, like, mushrooms other than the drug kind.
The brownies.
Right.
The brownies.
Would be this is when it started gaining popularity, I think, was the coffee. So what's your take on mushroom coffee?
Yeah, so I would say hot take. And exactly because of what you just said, it introduces people. They're like, oh, I have coffee. This isn't so scary, right? It's a great introduction. And kind of depending on, there's so many brands that do it differently. It's like, to me, it's confusing where people say mushroom coffee. And I'm like, okay, but are you saying coffee that has mushroom extracts, or are you saying coffee alternative that's using, like, a mushroom powder, right? So I think sometimes it can feel a little confusing. But either one, I think that it's amazing. And as long, as that brand is transparent and they're putting in all the right products, I think it's great. I think it's a great intro.
Okay, cool. Mushrooms in skincare, which we kind of already touched on. Is that a hot flash or a hot take?
Yeah, I would say hot take. Like, I'm totally here for it. I've seen chaga, tremella, reishi, all show up in skincare products. And I love it. I think it's a super innovative way to introduce functional mushrooms, again, without it feeling intimidating. So I'm excited for them.
Do you get the same benefits as putting it on your skin that you would ingesting it?
Yeah. So reishi is actually, like, its Latin name for it is like shiny skin. So I think it could be quite beneficial. Again, I'm not 100%
maybe different
sure,
than,
but I think
like, it wouldn't maybe calm the skin because right?
Yes.
And take redness away, like, whatever. I mean,
so I think it'll help reduce inflammation.
Maybe not help you sleep, but have the calming effect on your skin. Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, help reduce inflammation. So like that, like the tremella, it's super hydrating. So that in
Okay.
itself, that hydration adding to your skin, I think would
Yeah.
be super
Well, yeah, for
beneficial.
sure, especially as we get older.
Yeah.
Eating mushrooms as protein. Hot flash or hot take?
I would have to say a hot flash. I love mushrooms. I can have mushrooms on every single plate, but I wouldn't say, they're nutrient dense, but I wouldn't say that they're a reliable
Yeah.
protein source. Nadine might have a little, could give a little bit
You
more
would
info on that.
you would have to eat a lot of
Okay.
mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah,
A
so
lot of
much.
mushrooms.
Now,
Yep.
this one, I
Yeah.
think by now, near the end of the podcast, we already know the answer to it.
Oh.
But mushrooms are only for cooking.
Hot flash. Absolutely not.
Clearly, like we're hearing all of this stuff today, it's clearly not true. All right.
Yeah.
And this one as well. All mushrooms are created equal in supplements.
This is a sweaty hot flash.
Right.
Super sweaty. Definitely not. And definitely one of like the biggest
Yeah.
misconceptions in the industry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty
I
cool.
got one more, and I'm not quite sure how to say it. I think it's psilocybin mushrooms for medical treatment.
Yeah.
Hot flash or hot take?
Yeah.
Psilocybin?
Hot
Ah,
take.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely support this. Again, there's so much taboo and stigma around psilocybin, but the science is catching up. We already know kind of on the other side how amazing it is, but I think you do have to prove it to a lot of people.
This has been really good because I think that I hear so many of the different names be thrown around, and I didn't know exactly what each of them did. And I probably would have taken them at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's, just getting it out there a little bit more, educating, small bullet points. So something, I still need to make sure I do when I'm posting something, and just give like 3 little things on what that mushroom is for. And if people want to dive into it, there's resources I've, put up, different prompts on the website so people can go straight, to like the blogs and dive in a little bit more if they want to.
How can people get in contact with you, find you, reach out to you? What are your social media handles?
Yeah, social media. So happyhuman.mush.co. So you can always reach out to me there. happyhumanmushroomco.com for the website. There's a few places on island, which I'm super thankful for. They do carry the supplements on site. So Green to Go, Goodness, and
Vita.
Nourish. Yeah, Vita, yeah.
Or do they sell it, or they use it?
They use it. So you can use it into, your coffees. You can add it in. Yeah, so I'm super thankful for them. So you can find them there on island or
give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go and give it a try. Okay. Well, this has been wonderful. Very educational.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
so
for
much.
joining us.
I really appreciate you, ladies.
Thanks,
Thank
it was
you so
fun.
much.
Thanks for joining us on Breast Intentions. We hope you felt seen, supported, and maybe had a few laughs along the way. Don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review us. Your support keeps the conversation alive. Follow us on social media for more insights, behind-the-scenes fun, and updates on future episodes. Got a topic you want us to dive into? We'd love to hear from you. Remember, life's too short for bad bras, toxic relationships, and kale you don't actually like. So until next time, stay bold and keep your breast intentions exactly where they belong, front and center. Now go crush midlife, or at least today's to-do list. Cheers!